Yes, we can.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to the March Advisory Committee meeting for the airport. And at this time, Catherine, do you want to recognize the guests?
Yes. So I will just run through the group we've got on board with us right now. Mark Stringfield, Ray Beverly, Bobby Green is on the phone, Matt Hogan, Rhonda Reed, Cedric Rudd, Rissa Warwick, and then we have several members out today, and Baden hopefully joining here. And then let's see. Also, oh, there's Brittany. Hi, Brittany. Right, very good. And then also joining us, Travis Hargett. Bear with me while I get through here. Patricia Healy, Odette Opie, Marks. I think I've got everybody there. Okay. And then, Mark, I don't know if you've got your agenda up, but the next item is the service recognition for Matt Hogan.
I do. Yeah, this time we'd like to recognize Matt Hogan. This is his last meeting as a committee member on the advisory. Matt's been with us since 2014, well before me. That's 8 years. That's unbelievable. And just a real big thank you from everyone for your service.
Thank you, guys. I'm actually going to miss this group. It's been a lot of fun. It's interesting to see what comes in and out of this town via this committee. And the leadership is the best it's ever been. And I wish you all the greatest success. And now I'm going to have to learn how to pay for parking again.
The one big perk of being on the committee, right, Matt? Well, Matt, I also just want to echo what Mark said. Is that you've really been a great contributor to this group over the years. And please don't be a stranger. You know, you're still on the field, so we get to see your smiling face so often.
Yeah, we use the airport all the time. We're in and out of there every other month, basically. And you guys are doing a great job. We'll see you. We'll see you around for sure.
Right. Thanks so much, Matt.
Okay, Catherine, did you want to go ahead and take the director's report?
Sure, we will jump right into it. Thank you, Mark. And sure, slides are already in here. There we go. Okay, Andrew, you want to take us through the activity?
Absolutely. And I don't know about anyone else, but I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. So I don't know if people want to mute if you're not actually talking. I don't know if that'll solve it. So here we've got the February activity report. So we're showing 3 years, as the little note says here, 2020's got an asterisk on it, hopefully to forever be forgotten. So we're not going to use the data from that year. But we can see we're up, we're up considerably, 37% from 2019, 14% up from last year. Remember at this time, 2019 was a record year. So we're starting to see some pretty crazy numbers of just how much increases we're getting passenger-wise, operation-wise. You see air carrier landings, again, across the board up. And plane passengers were up 131% from last year, and then 43% up from pre-pandemic 2019 for February. So we've got a lot of new airlines and a lot of seat capacity, as we'll see later. Those seats are filling. So it's really just a good news, feel-good story all the way around. Total passengers, you can see the numbers for plane passengers, total passengers year to date. Those are all pretty similar because remember, January was a pretty great month as well. So we're just seeing really positive growth across the board.
I saw Brittany with her hand up. So yeah, please shout out if you've got a
question. Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure. Andrew, I'm curious, just because I'm new, what is operations different than like carrier landings, passengers, et cetera?
So operations is all flights, so that'd be GA and commercial, and air carrier would be just our commercials.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Next slide, please. So here's our all-important load factors. So this is, airlines like to see this number high. That basically means how many people are in seats. So it's 75% load factor especially with all the seat capacity we added. That's a really strong number when you consider all the extra flights we've got. You know, we're still not quite to that 78% we were at pre-pandemic, but I'll take 75. And especially over last year, you remember this time, I think February last year, we were still in the no middle seats. So we were seeing really low load factors in the 50%. So we're a little bit down, like I said, from 2019, but based upon what we've come through and all the capacity, I think 75 is a great number. You can see the market share. You can see Southwest is really going strong. I mean, they're coming in. They're pretty much right at where Alaska was, and Alaska's traditionally our second biggest behind United. United generally is our leader, but you can see the differences between the three. They're kind of coming together. So we're getting some pretty good split. And then you can see our other airlines that don't quite have as much robust service as the big three and where their market shares land. Our air cargo, we are up both from pre-pandemic and then slightly up from last year. You can see those numbers. But year to date, you know, January was a soft month. I don't know if you remember for cargo. And that I think we're still seeing some of the effects of the mushrooms. You know, so Brittany, since your first time, a lot of our outbound cargo from this area is high-end mushrooms that go to restaurants, especially East Coast. And so they really took a big hit during the pandemic. I really just haven't seen that rebound. So I think that's one of the primary drivers in that, in those numbers for the year-to-date cargo. But we are seeing slight increases for this month, so that's hopeful.
I think supply chain issues also still.
Well, yeah, there's that. Yeah, the elephant in the room, right?
Looks
yeah.
like we're recovering from that. That's good. Any questions about the activity report? And remember all, I can't see everybody at the same time on the screen, so shout out if you have a question. Okay, thank you, Andrew. And then we'll just take a look at the load factor comparison. Did I just unshare my screen?
No, we can see it. It's just not in slideshow mode anymore. Oh, now we see it there. You just need to start the slideshow again.
Okay.
I'll just do from current slide. Oh, all right.
Okay. Oh, and then we just started over. All right, cool. Okay, there. Sorry about that. I was trying to move this so I could see my notes. There we go. Okay, so load factor comparison. So this is a comparison of our 10 up, 10 down airports. So it's airports from the FAA records that are 10 above us and 10 below us. And then depending on how we're doing, we kind of fall within that range. So for airports for November of 2021, it shows Eugene with a 3% decrease in enplanements from 2019. The load factor of 90% is actually, it's a little bit higher than we want to see. We really like to float right around 85%. And 90%, that's when people start getting in their cars and driving to PDX. And only Jackson Hole, Wyoming was in the positive for this month for enplanements compared to 2019 at 19%. Okay, and we'll go into the financial report. Patricia.
All right, it's a good news situation too. The revenue is 4% over budget and 133% over last year's actuals. And you can see our recovery there. Personnel's on target with the budget and 14% above last year. And as you'll remember, I say this every month, we added some FTE this year for parking. We put that contract in-house and added FTE, so that went up a bit. Materials and supplies are under budget by 22% and 25% above last year's actuals. Last year, we asked our managers to hold off on some maintenance and things just because we were in the middle of the pandemic. And this year, we're starting to catch up on that. So you'll see a little uptick there. Capital, that is the John Deere tractor that was purchased last year and delivered this year due to the problem with getting it. Central services is ticking along as usual. That's for finance, human resources, purchasing, and attorneys. Always billed at 1/12 each month, so it always stays right on track. Total operating expense is under budget by 8%, 17% above last year. Again, that additional SVE played into that. So as you can see, we're in a positive operating position of almost $800,000 without any of the relief grants taken into account. So part of our CRISAT and all of our ARPA are being allocated to operating expense this year. That's just over 5.6 million by the end of the year that we're hoping to draw down. We've drawn down all of the CRISAT and we're going to now start the ARPA draws. Once you take into account the draws that we've made so far, our operating balance is just under $2 million, which is great. We can transfer to the capital fund and get some of our projects done. Next slide. All right, revenue. So this year is the yellow. As you can see, we had some spikes there. We had some AR issues that were getting corrected. And you'll see a kind of even out for the rest of the year. Next slide. Expense kind of chugs along and you kind of see the wave that goes each year. It spikes in some months and goes down in others. We're a little above the last couple of years, but that's that FTE coming into play. Next slide. This is the one I love. This is the operating without the relief grants. So if you look at the orange line, you can see in March of 2020, the dive where the pandemic hit. And then the gray one is 2021. You can see we just bottomed out as it hit hard. And then the yellow one is here we are in fiscal year 22 and we're recovering. All above zero, looking great. Okay, next slide. And here's with the grant relief. You can see in November where we drew and it pulled us out of our funk. You can see the spikes or where draws were made from the relief grants. So overall, it's a very good look at our financials. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, well, and I just want to commend Patricia and Odette and our finance team. They've done an outstanding job of managing, not just when we really needed to tighten our belts, but also when we got all of these rounds of financial grant help. It's just really put us in a very, very strong position. And I think it's probably worth noting to say that world events right now are kind of uncertain, and we're certainly seeing that impact around fuel prices, and that absolutely will impact our airlines, which will in turn impact us. But I kind of think we couldn't be in a better financial position heading into something like that. And so we have our capital improvement program lined out for the next, well, 5 years, but 3 years are really pretty well solidified. And with all of the additional grant relief funding that we were able to obtain, but not necessarily need anything beyond some of the CARES Act funds for just operating, we're going to be able to funnel all of that into capital improvement projects, which is really a great place to be. It's definitely not the same place as some airports across the country. So I feel really fortunate about that and really grateful that we're in that position. And so the next round of funding, of course, and this isn't relief funding, this is just additional infrastructure funding. It's the BILL program, which I'm blanking on what it's called, Patricia. It's the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. There we go. Okay. And so this, we finally just are starting to get some information about what this is going to look like for us. It's a pretty robust amount of funding for airports. It will roll out to us each of the next 5 years, and it is more flexible than traditional airport improvement program grant funding. They're really tailoring it more to the passenger facility program. Sorry, there's aircraft noise. It's one of the hazards of working in the airport. And so this funding will also provide a huge boost to our capital improvement program. In addition to basically what's an additional entitlement funding, we also have the opportunity to apply for the airport terminal program. That's also a 5-year program each year, and then we can apply. There's some pretty specific requirements of what you can apply for and what will also have the highest priority under this program, but we definitely plan to try to be competitive in that grant opportunity as well. And then I guess it's worth noting that there's also an airport tower program. That program, even though we probably could use some improvements in our air traffic control tower, there's really about 10 years more life left on that. In our airport development plan shows moving the tower to the north end of the field, but that won't happen within this timeline. What we understand from this program, it's really going to be focused on replacement of towers that are beyond their useful life. So not going to be able to tap into that one most likely. Any questions about that? And anything you want to add to that, Patricia?
No, I don't have anything to add. Maybe next month we could go over our projects for these grants. That'd be kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've been working away at honing in the timeline for these projects, and we can kind of connect all the dots for you then about how we're funding them through these multiple rounds of relief funding and then also the build program. That sounds good to you guys. Okay, we'll continue on. So here is a comparison of the general aviation activity at the airport. You can see the local GA traffic in January, just the comparison. We're a bit down this January. I don't think our weather was that bad, but maybe it was not conducive for flight. And then you can kind of see this one, we tend to compare ourselves to other airports in the state and also to Boise as well. And then the generally aviation itinerant traffic, you can see on the slide to the right, also for January of 22. We had a lot of, let's see, our Boise's really going, they've really, their GA traffic has really picked up, and I'm really curious to know why. So I think I'll be reaching out to their airport director to find out a little bit more about that. Hey, Ray, do you have a thought on that?
Partly to anticipate this summer, we're going to get quite a bit busier because Cresswell is going to go through major closure and refurbishment of their runway, and that'll bring a lot of general aviation into Eugene.
You're right. Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, well, we will continue on here and take a look at our forward-looking schedules. I'm going to make an adjustment here to my screen and hopefully I don't out. There we go. Okay. Forward-looking airline schedules. So we're in March and we are 1% down in departures and 20% up in seat capacity compared to 2020. And so you're going to see a little bit of apples and oranges comparisons here because we're trying to do the most accurate. We don't really want to compare to when we were really down very far in departures and seat capacity, but this was the best comparison to make for this. So what this shows is really we are seeing a lot of larger aircraft. So even though we're slightly down in the number of departures, the seat numbers are significantly up, and that is indicative of having larger aircraft in the market. And then if you look in the forward-looking schedule out to July, you'll see that our departures actually increased quite a bit, 12%. And then seat capacity increases 52% over July of 2021, which is just amazing. And it's kind of just in time for the World Athletic Championships, which is awesome. We're seeing our airline partners be responsive to these requests now. So that is really great to see. And we also know that a lot of this is actually permanent increases, that as our airlines are feeling really confident in our market and are just adding frequencies on a permanent basis. So that was really great. And one of those is Southwest Airlines adding a nonstop service to San Jose starting in June, on June 5th. So again, just-in-time service to be able to capture some of that opportunity through the World Athletics Championships. But we understand they intend to leave this in permanently. I think they just saw an opportunity here, and I think once this starts operating, they probably will take over because remember, they're also adding Denver for a few weeks, Saturday service only over the summer months. But I kind of have to think that maybe they'll be leaving that one in either longer or bringing it daily service as well. If you look at the pattern of air service they've added at the 19 new markets they went into over the past year, Denver is almost always the next one. And that's kind of, we anticipated that's what we would get, and we are getting that, but it's the Saturday only service. So it's a little bit curious. And then they threw this one in as a wild card for us. We're really not anticipating this, but I think they just saw a really good market opportunity. So yay. Any questions on that? Okay. So just a few other items of note. So the TSA announced last week that they were extending the mask mandate in public transportation through April 18th. Now, yesterday, the US Senate voted 57-40 to strike down the Biden administration's mask mandate. We're really unsure if that will get a vote in the House or not, but at least it was a statement being made by the Senate. So for now, at least, if you come to an airport or you take a city bus, you're still required to wear a mask. We've had a few modifications in our work areas where we're back to in our own work areas. You can choose to wear a mask or not, but in any public area that interfaces with the public, we have to be wearing masks. So that I know everyone's thinking, oh, no more masks, but at the airport, there are some exceptions to that where we need to continue to be wearing a mask. And we'll see what happens after the 18th. I am hopeful that if the mask mandate goes away on the 18th, that we'll actually start to be able to hold our advisory committee meetings back in person again without the challenge of not being able to read lips and that kind of thing, which I know can be a real challenge for some folks as far as hearing. So hopefully we are on our way towards that. Okay, I'm gonna unshare now here. And did anybody have any questions? Okay, good. Well, next up on our agenda is Airport Tenant Services Manager, Travis Hargett. He is going to take us through his work area. And spoiler alert, Travis is actually going to be leaving us and going to work for a parking company, which he's got great expertise in. We are going to miss him terribly, but excited for that new opportunity for Travis. So Travis, take it away.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate it. So as Catherine said, for at least another week, I'm still the tenant service manager and kind of going to go through the ins and outs. Tenant services is really more along the lines of an expertise in juggling, as there's a lot of pieces and parts that kind of play into it that touch different facets within the airport. We will start with just kind of the basics of what I do. It's very, it's fluid. I'll just say that. These are the current tenants that we have on the field that are related to airlines. Just remind everybody that most of the airlines have a contract with a ground handler. Technically, we only have one true airline employee here first, and they belong to Southwest. And you can also count them potentially with Horizon, and they, of course, service Alaska. As Catherine pointed out, with the new services coming in, the issues that we kind of sometimes run into is the gate management side of things. With the larger aircraft needing jet bridges, we can't ground load them. So we switched to a non-assigned gate system. And as you can see on the slide, each airline has their own preferred gate, but we require them to be able to operate at all the gates because until we have our concourse, we kind of play a shuffle game a little bit to make sure that we can meet everyone's needs. And the airlines are doing pretty good with that. And with the new software that we have, operations is kind of running their show on that. We haven't had any issues, knock on wood. We'll continue down that path. These are the non-airline or non-commercial airline type tenants in here. It includes the restaurants and the newsstands. The other ones are Lawrence Air Service, which you guys are aware of, all of our cargo. They also do some charter flights. They have a couple contracts with some of the airlines, the ground handling companies here to do their maintenance on all the ground support equipment. And then there's Atlantic, our fixed base operator. And then a lot of people forget LCCs out here. I do all the time. That's my bad. But they're out there. They got a big crew, and they have actually a really vibrant program that they run out with pilot and mechanical training and such. The next one is to kind of go over some of the revenue type tenants on station, and it kind of helps us align with the trends. This chart just shows their gross revenue that they reported over the different 3 fiscal years, not calendar years, from the 4 different companies. And this goes right in line with the other slides that you'll see from Patricia as we look at, and along with employment and passenger numbers, it kind of follows the same trend. One thing that we did see was a spike. Normally Hertz runs the show on the market share here. This last year we saw that kind of went down and Avis kind of bumped up. I think that that's probably more associated with some of the internal reorganization and business practices at Hertz, not the fact that something went awry. Now, ground transportation side, that's kind of the bigger one. Just to give you an overview, I know we have several members that are new to the AAC. We do have 3 lots, our short, long, and economy. It kind of shows the prices and the capacity that we have right now. I'll talk about capacity in a minute. Recently, in an effort to help us deal with some of the traffic that goes around the airport and folks just wanting to circle, not wanting to really get out of their car, and some folks feel the cell phone is too far away. We wanted to get the cars to stop driving around. It's all part of the environmental program and everything. So we changed all of the lots, even short term, to 30 minutes free. And we've actually seen a significant increase in usage of transactions that are occurring in all of the lots, particularly short term and long term, that are below 30 minutes. And we don't have as much, I'll use the word confrontation on the curb with some folks. They're actually taking advantage of this. So this was a big win for us. I wish there was a way that we could tangibly measure the carbon offset by doing this, but we'll have to get some big brains on that and dig through some of the numbers. The one piece of the puzzle that we're missing is a mobile payment option, and that's coming out probably by the end of Q1 this year. We're just waiting on some financial reorg from the company to allow it to occur, and that will be, it's a touch-free. You literally just tap your phone like you would at the grocery store if you have your Google or Apple Wallet set up on your phone. That's how that's kind of going to run. We do have 2 other lots that we have for employees, and then the administration lot. The one thing that we recently have done as we grow, we now have a parking calculator on our webpage so that folks can make a decision before they get here and look and see how much it's going to cost them to stay. We kind of use Portland as the example. They have a really good one there. And then also we're looking at putting our occupancy numbers, and I'll show you a little bit of that a little bit. The last one on this for some folks is our frequent traveler program. This is a free program. All it does is allows a person to express in and out and not have to pull a ticket, process payment right there at the kiosk. It lets you in as if you're a monthly permit holder. And then when you exit, it charges your credit card on file. It creates a business account for you. We've seen a significant uptick in this. I think I'm probably pushing 40 plus members in that right now as we try to get the word out. So our new parking system, we installed it a couple of years ago. It's primarily based on license plate recognition. And the system has an artificial intelligence built in so that it can learn your vehicle over time. So if for some reason you come in one day and you have your ginormous bike rack covering your license plate, the system will still figure out that you had your I Love Teddy Bears sticker on your back window and link you together. We're the first airport to roll it out. We were actually the first facility in the United States to roll it out. We're still playing with it. It's really new technology, and it's proven to be challenging, but I think that they're going to overcome it really quick. Kind of the same thing. The system that we have out here is the same one used for the city and for the University of Oregon, and will eventually be the one that goes in at the graduate for the convention center. So the nice thing is as people come to Eugene, the main transit places will have the same platforms. And so hopefully that will ease some of the stress for some folks on how they interact with it, when the fact is that you'll be able to get experience across the board. By installing the system, it allowed us to remove the booth attendants because it has a intrinsically built-in process for a video conference out of a call center out of Philadelphia with a different company called Parker Technology. So you roll up and press the button, and you actually have a two-way video conference call with an agent that has the full ability to process your payment, to lift the gate, to guide you through the entire process. And that system is significantly less expensive than putting a human in the booth along with that contract. So this was the saving grace to allow us to move to the process to not have booth attendants, was still being able to provide that customer support just remotely instead of having somebody sitting there. As Patricia mentioned, we hired some new FTEs this year with the ground transportation officers. That's just a way of calling them a parking officer, like what you would see downtown. The difference being out here is they are more focused on the customer support type thing than just writing a parking ticket. We want to lessen the impact by one to the many by hopefully just gaining compliance with some of the basic rules. It's not like we're going to throw a stick at them or something, but we try to do as much as we can with the verbal education before moving to that next step. We've been pretty successful. At least that's what a lot of the folks that live on the curve have told us, from the ops folks to our navigators and EPD. So that's actually a good positive there. Some of the trends that we're seeing, this compares the in-plane PAX numbers for the last 4 fiscal years to our revenue on the parking side. You can see it almost mirrors itself, of course. The one thing I would point out is right now on our forecast, I go 6.9 as conservative. If I had to bet money, well, we're going to break the 7 mil mark by the end of the fiscal year on parking revenue, which is rainbow money. So I'm sure Patricia will love more of that. The other ones on the commercial side for ground trans, the one thing that we kind of noticed is from 2021 to 22, a lot of our permits kind of went down. And I was trying to understand why that was happening. And a lot of it was due to, there was probably 4 or 5 different taxi shuttle type companies that were 1 or 2 car operations, and they just chose to retire. They chose to shut down their businesses and go. So when you see that it's 26 and 21 and then 19 and 22, you're like, well, what the heck happened? It wasn't something that we did or something that happened locally. It was just a perfect storm with some businesses choosing to go. But on the plus side, that 19 represents a ad of about 8 different shuttles, different companies that we started to pick up previously that we weren't even aware that they were doing business, and a lot of them are coming out abandoned. And then also the big charter buses, they weren't permitted before. We've got them on board now so that everyone's operating on the same page. Turo is a peer-to-peer. Imagine an Airbnb for your car. That's exactly what it is. We're trying to work with them. They've been operating for a while. They've been a struggle for a lot of airports. Some airports have actually had to take lawsuits and then I'm talking big airports, Boston and stuff like that. We're pretty close to working out a deal with them. Andrew's going to take point on that. This is basically what they've offered us, is 6.5% of gross receipt sales at this point. We'll have to see what happens with that. The Uber and Lyft, just wanted to show what we look at as far as the transactions that go here. We changed our administrative order last year. They used to pay $1,000 a year plus $1 per pickup. And now to bring our rates more in line with the rest of the industry for airports our size, it's now $2,500 a year. And then it's $1 per pickup per drop off. And so if you notice, and this is the slide just shows the month of January for the 4 months, for the 4 years, sorry. In the red is the revenue and then the pickup and the drop offs. But if you look at the red for January 22, compared across the board, that's a huge jump. And it's not that they potentially are doing more traffic. It's the fact that they now pay for pickup and drop off instead of just one, which a lot of airports have started switching to. And I would anticipate this changing, going up more as we stay in line with the rest of the industry. Because $1 per trip seems like it's a lot lower than what everybody else is moving towards. So what's next? The big one that we're trying to push for is to provide that messaging to customers so that before they actually come here, they can know what our capacities are, which is what the image is on the top right. Each one of our locations will have, each one of our lots will have the current occupancy, any nuances of it. Example being short-term has all of our ADA stalls. So we want to get that message out to the customers before they get here. And then as they come on station, we will wayfind them to the lot that they choose with real-time dynamic occupancy signs and dollar amounts. So with hopes that allows folks to come on to site, get parked, get out of their car, get on their plane without having to circle and have that frustration where most folks, when they come to the airport, the nerves are already amped. So what we can do to reduce that. The Google Apple Pay, that's the mobile app that we're talking about. When we're getting ready to do a project this summer, and hopefully Patricia brought up there was going to be a briefing on the projects that are coming. We're going to do an expansion to the long-term parking lot, probably add another 300, 400 stalls there. But when we do that, we're going to also put the infrastructure in to support electrical vehicle charging stations. We know that that's something that's going to need to happen. So we're taking advantage of this construction project to actually lay that infrastructure in place. Down the road, we are considering a valet option. We don't know if we're that big yet, but we're going to explore it and see what things that we can do to provide that service. We tried to go down the route of an autonomous shuttle for our economy shuttle, and the price points on them are just still astronomically huge. You're talking 1.3 to 1.8 mil a year to run an autonomous shuttle. And that's only, the initial quotes are only going to be for a 12-hour period. But there was a dream, and I think that it's still there eventually. With the technology that Eugene has as a tech community, I think it would be something really cool to bring here. And the industry as a whole from airports are moving to a lot of this, and they're actually using autonomous vehicles on the ramp to move baggage claims and stuff. They've done several tests at some of the bigger airports, and technology's there. The next one is another frequent parker program, but this one costs money because what it does is it reduces your daily rate. So if by the time that you've traveled, I think it was 15 or 16 weeks within a year, you're actually making more money. And this one's specifically set up for our business travelers. And then lastly will be the VIP program, which we're just waiting on admin orders and stuff. I think we have 6 spots that are designated, plan to put signs in there. I think we actually have 6 people that want to buy them already. But this is going to be, we envision it more like the lines of a company buys this spot and that's what they would use. It would be front center, basically just Hollywood type parking. That is me. Any questions from anybody?
I do.
Grace got a question.
In your tenant list of aviation activities, I noticed that you don't list iFly Aviation, which is a very strong, well-run flying school. And that should be included in there. Steve Bolton offers a lot of operations and has a very good ongoing flight school.
I think you sir wasn't tracking that one. A lot of the times some of the GA type stuff and the tenant services kind of blend. So I'm sure that Randy has that one on her radar.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, right? Is Randy's been doing all of the general aviation, and Travis has been working more with our commercial tenants like the airlines and car rentals and concessionaires, that kind of thing.
I just figured if he has Lawrence Aviation and Lane Community, then he usually have it. So wherever it fits, he needs to be recognized.
As long as he's willing to report those, that's another thing that we'd have to get his monthly report.
All right. Thank you, Travis. That was a great presentation. Appreciate that. And again, thank you for your time at Eugene and also for the city of Eugene. Travis has worked for the city for, I want to say, how long? 8 years? That it was 8? Okay, very good. Any other questions before I turn it back over to Mark?
Catherine, Bobby had a quick question, and I think Cedric does too. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but that was a great presentation there, Travis, and wish you the best at your next stop. But I'm kind of like off the, maybe not directly on point, but I know TSA is one of our tenants. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and who provides the airport security? And do you see any changes in that? Are they part of the tenant services? Who provides that service?
Are you talking about, Bobby, are you talking about TSA or are you talking about airport security? They're kind of two different things.
Yeah, I know they are. And I was talking about TSA first. And I was thinking it's more, they have to have a presence there at the airport. Okay. And then the airport security in and of itself, do we anticipate any changes in those areas?
I think I'll toss this one to Andrew. Andrew oversees both of those areas.
Yeah, so I'll just cover all the bases on the levels of security, just so I make sure I hit the one that you're getting to. And then if you want more details, we can go from there. So yes, we have a TSA presence. So they're in charge of our security checkpoint, and they oversee our access points in conjunction with our security manager. So our security manager takes care of our airport security plan and coordinates with our operations team. And so we have our 4 operations agents or members. And so they provide, they do perimeter checks. They check on when there's a door alarm to clear the area. They do sweeps if necessary of the terminal if there's an evacuation or a security incident where, say, like an example would be a door that was left unattended and open that was an access control for too long, then that precipitates, different actions like a terminal sweep. And then in terms of out of the parking lot and on front curb, that we actually have ground transportation officers. So they actually, Travis has been leading that team and actually formed that team. And so they really do an outstanding job of making sure we meet our TSA requirements of not having vehicles left unattended or waiting for too long on the front curb. They also monitor our parking lots. And then they also assist with our operations folk. Those teams work in conjunction with other to kind of create a broad security framework. And then additionally on that, we've got EPD on site. So we have 24/7 EPD presence here. And so they obviously operate as police, real police officers with all the rights and duties that go along with that. Did I answer your question, Bobby?
Yeah, you answered it, and then you did a good job. Appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, and if you ever have more questions about that, I'm happy to have a conversation offline as well.
I'll be glad to do that. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
And Cedric, I think I saw you raising your hand.
Yes, questions for Travis. So when the airport moved to virtual parking attendants, were the employees able to fill, I would say, maybe open positions within the organization?
So the employees that were part of the booth staff was through a contract. They belonged to the contract as Reef Parking. It used to be Republic, and part of it was SP Plus, and kind of goes back and forth. We kept some of them on after their contract terminated as we did a transition period. We actually brought them on as temps with Quantum Temp Services, and they actually were happy with that because they made more money as a temp than they did with a contractor. When we did post the ground transportation officer positions, they were encouraged to apply, but none of them did. And as far as I know, I did a couple letters of recommendations, for a couple of them, but a lot of them had been here for a significant amount of years, and they chose to retire.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I will turn it back to Mark.
All right, Catherine, thank you. And thank you, Catherine, Andrew, Patricia, and Travis for those very positive, upbeat reports. And best of luck to Travis moving on. And once again, before I open it up to the floor, a final thank you to Matt for his 8 years of service as well, you guys. And that's it's quite a commitment. So at this time, anybody have anything they want to add or any questions before we close?
Raising his hand.
I have one more on the general aviation side. Thanks to Randy Bonneau, who has helped me set up access to the upper terminal level for my ground school. First 2 Tuesday nights didn't go well. Last night was perfect. I've averaged 10 students each time, so I'm getting a lot of aviation education through the terminal and the help of especially Randy. Thank you.
You're welcome. I actually called last night too to make sure you were able to get in on time. So
it was perfect last night. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Randy, thank you for all the reports you get to us as well. You do just a fantastic job. It goes without saying. So anybody else questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that, Ray. I do apologize. I know the first couple of nights were a little rocky. I will say you are our bleeding edge first user of that space. So you are proving concept, but I appreciate your patience.
I didn't bleed that badly. It was just a little late getting started, but it worked.
Okay, anybody else? Well, I think this concludes this March's meeting, and hopefully we're getting closer to be able to meet in person, everyone.
I sure hope so, Mark. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everyone, and this meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Good to see y'all.